You're right on time because Orange Juice in the Kitchen is about to get started. We're your hosts. I'm Annie Graff.
And I'm Maggie Jensen. Pull up a chair because the OJ is flowing and it's about to get juicy.
We're getting deep in our convos about sobriety and mental health because that's how we've both found deep love for ourselves and the lives we live.
And when you love yourself in your life, there's nothing to escape. This is the real on how vibrant and colorful alcohol freedom feels. So grab your glass.
Cheers, besties. Let's chat. What is up, you guys? Welcome back to Orange Juice in the Kitchen. You got your girls Annie and Maggie here, and we are talking about a subject and a topic that you might not have ever considered before. Maggie, I'm going to ask you a question because we're going to cue it off here.
Okay, put me on the spot.
Yeah, when we were actively drinking, and our Sundays looked quite slow, low energy, mostly because we were recuperating from the night before or the multiple nights before. When you saw people, usually like on social media, you're scrolling that morning and you're seeing stories.
Yeah.
You saw people like getting after, cleaning their house on a Sunday, doing laundry, getting their groceries, getting a workout in, God forbid. What type of feelings did that bring up within you?
I felt so many as you were talking about that. I had like flashbacks to it. And like the first sense that I had was like anger. And like, I don't know why I was angry at those people, but it was something like probably anger at myself for knowing that I should be doing those things. But it was also like, I was turned off. I was like,
it's interest. That's what comes up for me too. It's like,
yeah.
oh.
Like, no, that doesn't sound fun. That's not how I want to spend my Sunday. I was either recuperating or I was also famous for Sunday funding.
Me too.
And that meant that I would have had to have more interest in grocery shopping than going for mimosas, which in my life then was not a thing. So I think actually like seeing those on Sundays in my previous life, so to say, it almost like made me more turned off and disinterested in sobriety. It was like, I don't think that's how I want my Sundays to look.
Yeah, no, I was the same way. That's so interesting. And the crazy thing also for me was I felt that so heavily, and I was like, oh my God, like she's going for a walk on a Sunday morning. She's running. She's, XYZ fill in the blank with whatever productive activity they were doing. I was like, that's not even how I want to spend today. Like, I almost took that as like that sobriety. Like, I don't, why? For what? No. I am going to order my Uber Eats. I'm going to put on some Netflix show that I'm probably not even going to watch much of. And I'm going to just vibe out here. Or like you said, I'm going to rally the crew and we're going to Sunday Fun Day. And always, whether that was, Sunday Fun Day or a hungover Sunday, led to Monday feeling like I needed an extra day of the weekend. It was always like, even if I had nothing going on Sunday and I was just on my couch, I was just like vibing alone. I always, just
sprawled out, dying,
non-existent to the world. And like that was my idea of like recovery day, right? But then Monday, I always felt still exhausted, still like mentally not quite there, which now obviously makes a lot of sense to me. It takes time for your body to actually excrete alcohol from its system. So it makes a lot of sense. Those effects were still at play within my body. But I always wish, I'm like, why can't the weekends be one more day? Because I need now a recovery day from my hangover day because that wasn't enough for me, And it's so interesting because this past weekend I actually had this idea. I had a very low-key Sunday and it was after a lot of like birthday celebrations, a lot of socializing, a lot of high activity, and I woke up Sunday morning and I was like, I'm kind of feeling like taking a hangover Sunday day, but hangover Sunday, but make it sober as well, right? Like it wasn't because of the after effects of alcohol. It was simply because I needed a rest and recovery day. I needed a low vibe day. I needed some just quiet peace time. And that's what I want to bring to everyone listening today, that you can have your hangover Sundays, because I feel like there is a part within us as humans that enjoy that. I saw a TikTok on this actually that was like, don't lie, you actually do like being hungover. And in my head, I'm like, but then honestly, I was like that. Yes, I think there's an element of truth there, but it's not actually because we enjoy the anxiety, the lethargic nature, the brain fog, the regret, the shame, the headache, the sickly stomach. Like, we don't like those things, but simply we do, as humans, need a day, whether it's once a week, whether it's every other week, once a month. We do need a day of just vibing out by ourselves, just chilling, just no expectations, no high productive feeling that we need to do. And so I had myself this past Sunday a little sober hangover Sunday, and I wanted to see like what are your thoughts on that, and where do you find that coming up in your life?
Oh my gosh. So I love, like, I want to go all the way back to when you were talking about how you needed, back in the day with a real hangover, you needed basically a weekend after your weekend to
Right.
recover, right? And something that's really like changed in my alcohol freedom is my perspective of days. I used to hate Mondays, but looking back, it was really because I found satisfaction in my hangover from Sunday, meaning, oh, because I'm hungover, I don't have to do any of that. I'm going to give myself the permission slip to not worry about laundry and groceries and tidying up my house and, getting myself ready for the week.
It's kind of like when we're sick. It's like, oh, nothing really, there's like a little bit of satisfaction in like, okay, well, I'm sick. Nothing needs to get done. Right?
Let me take care of me. Like, I think it does, like, to go to that TikTok even, we somehow subconsciously did enjoy hangovers, because I know for me, speaking alone, it's like it gave me the permission slip to resign carefree from my obligations in life for that one day.
Yeah.
Yes, in the back of my mind, I did have anxiety. I was like, oh, I'm going to have to do that tomorrow, but it's okay. Today I'm sick. Today I'm hungover. It must have been all of the sugar in the alcohol I drank last night, right? Not the alcohol. It was like, I didn't eat enough. Maybe it was the 30 shots you took. But anyway, I digress. So, spending the entire Sunday talking myself out of doing anything to feel good about it meant that Monday was like, still reaping the negative effects of alcohol even 2 days later. But then on top of that, returning to work, returning to normal life, and then thinking, I didn't do my laundry. I don't have any groceries at home. I haven't even started thinking about what I'm going to eat this week. I haven't even stepped foot or thought about the gym. And so it's like already starting Monday, super behind, which made Monday suck. So, I think that I just want to kind of give anybody that's on the sideline hating Mondays because of the way that the weekly cycle continues and the hangover Sundays carry over. I want to give them like that, just that wherewithal that the days of the week actually start to even out and you really love every day. But in sobriety, I have found some of my favorite activities are literally like putting on a good movie and laying on the couch with my dogs and still giving myself a taste of that same feeling back on those hangover days of like, you know what? There are a million things I could be doing, but I'm going to show up better for those if I do give myself space to recharge. And in that recharge time, it just feels different than hangover recharge, right?
Yeah.
So it's like you have a sense of peace as you're laying there because you know that like, hey, you trust yourself to get these things done and you know you're going to feel better at some, you know you're going to have more energy, but you're not feeling sick. You're just feeling rested.
It's like a hangover Sunday from alcohol is like, I mean, I'm going to show some visuals here. So if you're not watching, just like try to track this. So like your level of like well-being on Friday before you go out is like even ground, right? And then your well-being a little bit lower Friday night because you're drinking, you're eating shit food, maybe you're ordering pizza at 2 a.m. when you get home from the bars, whatever. And then a little bit lower because Saturday morning, then you're like feeling, at least this was my routine, right? Feeling a little bit lower. You haven't nourished your body in any way. You've probably been dehydrated from actual water. But you go out for brunch with the girls and you have some sugary pancakes or something, you know, right? And a little bit lower, you're drinking mimosas and then it turns into a night out and then you're at the club, a little bit lower, a little bit lower. So you keep kind of dipping your well-being the whole weekend. At least this is what I was doing. And even if like, oh, let's go for a walk, like the little things I would do to be like, yeah, let me feel a little bit better, it didn't ever get you back up to par, right? So then by Sunday morning, you wake up hungover, you're like down here. Maybe on the Sundays I wasn't drinking, I was just taking a straight hungover day. I'm like still ordering those Uber Eats. I'm sitting in the couch, like just reminiscing in my anxiety and my regret and my shame and all that stuff. It doesn't actually come back up much to meet you back to like that starting point, that like par level, right? And maybe you get a little bit up because you sleep, you drink some water, you have the Pedialyte, you have some food, even if it's not the best, but there's still those like mental thoughts of like, need to do this, need to do that. Oh my gosh, okay, I'm not responding to this, I'm not responding to that. Like it's all these other things that you still don't really get up to par. So then by Monday, after a full night of sleep, not drinking for that day, maybe you're back up to par where you started Friday. Maybe. And still there's like those mental things happening that we're not even account into your well-being, right? So that's kind of what that looked. So like every weekend was just like dip in terms of health, well-being, and body wellness. Dip to maybe come back up to par. Then maybe during the week, I get my workouts in, I drink my water, I'm like taking a few days off of drinking. Also maybe not, so it kind of just like vibes out here on par. In sobriety, that looks so different for me. My Fridays, honestly, are pretty good. If anything, I'm like, drained, I'm a little tired, I'm a little like overextended from a week of like, of workouts, of clients, of work, of this and that, of, life, relationship stuff. But we're here. Saturday, I'm up a little bit. I do a sunrise hike. I have quality time with friends. I'm, eating good foods. I'm moving my body. I'm getting a workout in. I'm getting a nap in the middle of the day. I'm going out into the sunshine. Like it's up, and then if on Sunday I need that like chill day, it's honestly, while there are those same mental things potentially of like, I should do the laundry, I should get my workout in, it doesn't dip any lower. If anything, just kind of stays there. But it also has a little bit of a trajectory up because you're giving, at least for me, I'm giving myself the time, the peace, the relaxation, the like rejuvenation that my body needs to then start Monday even higher. So like if you kind of zoom this out now, it's like each week when that becomes the routine, it's like a little bit up. And this is why I think in sobriety, I have seen such progress in my physical health, in my lifting, in my body, in my eating habits, in my resting heart rate, in my cardiovascular ability, like in all these physical things, because I'm not taking 3 days every weekend to dip so low that I'm like working so hard just to get back up to meh, and maybe getting back up to. So it's like, really, if you kind of put that out on a graph there, it actually makes a lot of sense. And then those Sundays, sober hangover Sundays, are still tipping the scales up in your favor, because as humans, we do need that rest. We do need chill time, and not every moment needs to be, and I think this is something that people need to hear about sobriety, is like, not every moment needs to be or is filled with productivity, with movement, with high energy, high vibes. Like, as humans, we're gonna have those lulls where we have those moods, we have those days where we're just like, I'm tired. And that was me last Sunday. Like, I woke up at like 6 just naturally, and then I was like, yeah, could I go on a run? For sure. Yeah, I have the energy, I have the ability, I have the capability to do that. Could. But I could also sleep. I could sleep in. I could just enjoy this morning as if I were hungover from drinks. But instead of just trying to climbing my way out of a hole, I'm already on the surface, and I'm just going to be like giving myself something else that I need in this moment. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think, like, for anybody that's looking at the productive lifestyle of somebody sober and is like, not me, or anybody that is living happy in their sobriety but has a hard time like letting themselves relax and say, okay, today I know that I need to recharge. I think it's really important for them to know that, like, that is part of the normal thing. You might not see it on social media as much from sober influencers, sober pages. And I'll say I'm guilty of this too. I kind of just show like, hey, here's me on a walk. I want to be inspiring. But there are so many times when, I did that walk and I got to the gym. That was maybe 2 hours of my day, but the other 13 hours that I was awake, I was relaxing.
Yeah.
I was laying motionless by the pool or laying on my couch with my dogs. And I think that over time, like, that really helped me understand something that actually caused me to drink, which is like a backwards thing of like, when I was stuck in my drinking, it was Monday through Thursday, like you said, that cycle where I was so hard on myself. I have to be productive. Basically, I had this like idea that I had to make up for my lost time, right? So Monday through Thursday,
Yeah.
I was a perfectionist beyond belief. Like, I had to spend every moment diligently. If it was work related, I did have my Tuesday night service industry nights and margarita Wednesdays, but outside of those drinking events, like, I was very diligent and I planned every moment, and I was like, I want to be really productive. I was very restrictive. I was like, you got to be doing this. And then, so that would mean, like, wouldn't that be normal for somebody who's really, really hard on themselves and really, really productive, finding their worth and value from how they're working, like, to then want to let loose Thursday and Friday, and then come, Saturday, Sunday, they don't want to do anything. So it's kind of like balancing the scale and saying, you know what, like, let me give myself time to guilt-free relax. And that's carried over into obviously my sobriety, where I can look back and be like, okay, no wonder alcohol felt so good, because I was so regimented. I thought that I had to be perfect Monday through Thursday. And just because I removed alcohol didn't mean that automatically shifted for me.
Yeah.
It was really hard for me in the beginning to have those sober hangover days, because I watched everybody else and they were doing so many productive things. And here I am, I'm wrong if I'm not getting my 12,000 steps a day because I'm an overachiever and I'm wasting my time. But what I notice is when I carve out those days, Monday following, I have so much creative energy, and like, things just, my mind clicks. Anything that I was like perhaps mulling over or stressing about from the week prior, I just figure it out. And
Yeah.
it's like, okay, if you look into like personal development, a lot of psychology literature, they really emphasize surrendering and relaxing, because we don't find our answers, and we don't find sometimes a lot of ways to solve life things when we are spun up. So we have to have those days where we're literally taking our mind off of it. We're not bombarding ourselves with, you should be doing this, you should be doing that. It's a practice of self-care. And we talk about that with, the sober experimenters too, of like, don't judge yourself. If you're comparing yourself to other sober people and you see their lifestyle where every day it looks like they're knocking out 10 really important things, and you're saying, well, here I am, I'm not really achieving much. Like, first of all, there are a lot of things, small things that you've probably done today that you should feel good about. And second of all, you don't know what their free time looks like. If they're that productive, then you bet your bottom dollar they're giving themselves time to recharge. They might not just be showing that. And so I think it was really important for me to know, like, sobriety doesn't look like just having to spend every single moment firing on all cylinders and like rainbows and sunshine. Like, no, there's still going to be life things that happen where you give yourself space to breathe and not think about those things and recharge. And I love sober hangover days.
Yeah. I think, like, honestly, when I looked at what I thought a sober lifestyle was, it just felt overwhelming. It felt like there was no way. Like, I thought, like, okay, great. So I cut out alcohol. Then all of a sudden I'm going to be a different person. Like, no, I'm still going to, like, not feel like doing this and not have the energy for this and completely avoid that. And, like, be really, there are things that I used to tell myself, like, oh, I'm just bad at that. I'm bad at like following through. I would have meetings, like, I was still a business owner in my high drinking era, and I would tell myself, I'm kind of bad at, like, abiding by someone else's schedule, which is so shit. But I'd be like, I'm just bad at, like, planning that meet. I don't know. Like, if it wasn't me planning it, I would, and it was just because, like, I literally, especially like hungover, or if I, like, all of a sudden made plans to go out, like, I would just be like, kind of like I've said before, like, when drinking is on the table, drinking comes first, everything else comes last. That was definitely something I kind of, like, found myself building a habit in. And then that is just how I thought I was as a human. Mm-hmm. So I was like, there's no way that all of a sudden I'm going to cut out alcohol and I'm going to change entirely. And so the idea of seeing people live a sober lifestyle, I was like, well, that's probably just who you are already. Like, well, that's not me.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, that's just great. That's probably just already how you lived your lifestyle, And there was this, like, barrier to me to entry into sobriety that I just thought I just wasn't the type of person for. And I'm like, I would never just get up and run. Like, I'm like, that just, I mean, what is someone following me for a photo shoot? Like, what's the point? I would just say, like, well, that's just not who I am. And it's so interesting. And, like, this is why, we do the deep work that we do within the sober experiment, is because, maybe simply removing alcohol, especially in the beginning, you're going to be still who you've been practicing to be in drinking, even in the beginning phases of sobriety. And if you let that deter you from who you're potentially capable of becoming in sobriety, then that's exactly where you're going to stay. So, like, this is what we see people do all the time, right? Like, you cut out alcohol, and then, and this is what I did in my kind of failed sobriety attempts, is like, oh, well, I quit alcohol 2 days ago, and, or like, I'm taking a little sober month here, sober's challenge. And I didn't wake up this morning feeling like I want to go for a run. See? And it's like, I would tell myself, like, see, nothing's
I'm
changed.
not a runner. I'm not somebody who
Yeah.
likes to do that in the morning.
Yeah. And like, oh, I don't just feel like cleaning my house. See, no, I'm still the same. And it was kind of this like confirmation bias to me where I'm like, see, I knew that cutting out alcohol wasn't the key to everything. So I'm just going to revert back. And at least when I was drinking, I was having some fun. Yeah, there were all the other things I was experiencing that I didn't enjoy, but like, at least I was having some fun with cutting out alcohol in the first, few days, weeks. I was like, what is the point here? And I was just I would tell myself like, oh, see, like that lifestyle that they're living, like I'm just not capable of. And so I would return. And I want to say this for anybody out there who like might be thinking of, or maybe you've tried sobriety and you've experienced that same thing where you're like, yeah, oh, Annie gets up at 4 a.m. to ice bath and do handstands and journal. Like, you're like, my alarm went off at 4 a.m. and I snoozed it. I did not want to get up. Like, don't be thinking that those are habits or things that I even wanted to do when I was very early in sobriety. It's simply in like building the identity and building new habits, rewiring the way you think about yourself, the way you think about your life, the way you think about what gives you joy. And I think really, really being okay in the beginning of sobriety of just like, what is peace to me? Like, I define kind of peace first and be okay with peace, because before that I actually thought peace was boredom. So I tried to escape boredom by chasing chaos, which meant that I was just constantly chasing chaos and avoiding peace. And I think in the beginning of sobriety, finding that peace and just being like, I'm okay to simply exist. It felt really uncomfy for me at first, but now it's funny because to bring this all like back around to the original topic is like, I crave those just simply existing in peace days, if we're calling that like a sober hangover. They aren't requirements in my every single week, to be honest. Like, I don't need them like I need a hungover from alcohol Sunday, but I do need them as a human, probably, I would say like every 10 to 14 days, I need at least one, and I do something that I call a me day, usually probably once a week. But what serves me on a me day isn't necessarily just simply laying on the couch, vegging and watching a Netflix show and maybe ordering a Chick-fil-A burrito bowl that I don't have to make, in my own kitchen. But anyway, like, I just say all that because I think for me, I thought sobriety was something I was so incapable of enjoying and doing the right way. And when I tried it, it felt like it wasn't a fit for me. But I only had tried it, like for a few days, and then I just jumped back. So I don't know. I think for anybody listening out there, like, it takes time, and what you have considered your peaceful, restful days in your drinking era are actually not peace at all. It's actually your body like excreting chaos, excreting, poison. It is you being so in your head, overthinking, anxiety, overwhelm, brain fog, exhaustion, dehydration, lack of nutrients, like so much else is going on that your body is simply fighting to return back to that barely on par level with normal well-being, that you're not actually like you're not improving your health by having that day. But now in sobriety, that's exactly what these days are. And they feel so good. And like you said, Maggie, like Mondays, I took that day Sunday. Monday was great. Like, I was like, I want to get out of bed. Like, I want to get my workout in. I'm excited to get this cardio. I'm excited to be on a call with these clients. I'm excited to do this and be in my zone of genius here because I've kind of refilled my cup.
Right.
I'm overflowing now. It's not even just refilled to that mid-mark line. I'm now overflowing that I have all the tools, all the things to give to the areas of my life that I need to give.
Yeah. And I think you perfectly articulated, how a lot of people perceive sobriety, but then also kind of, I don't mean to talk them down. I respect anybody's sober journey, but sometimes those ones that go awry are like when we do, try to just keep bringing our drinking identity into a sober, alcohol-free identity. And like your sentences perfectly represented how you stay stuck in sobriety of like, okay, well, I didn't drink. I set my alarm for 4 a.m., but I didn't want to get up. Okay, well, something that we help our sober experimenters with and something that you and I did intuitively was like we recognized that we didn't want to do those things because they weren't within our comfort zone when we were drinking. But like we recognized, okay, if I don't want to be that way anymore, I have to step out of my comfort zone. And so I think it's such a mind fuck, excuse my French, but a mind fuck when you are in your drinking identity and you're forecasting the future of trying sobriety and you're like, there ain't no way that I'm going to want to get up and be productive on Sunday and feel good on Monday. But it's literally because you are projecting your current identity into that. Why would you need to lay around all day Sunday and Monday every single week, week after week, if you didn't have alcohol in your life? If you gave yourself belief, which you actually don't really need to give yourself, once you remove alcohol and you're not hungover all the time, your belief in yourself, it exponentially raises. So you're like, okay, well, actually, I do maybe kind of believe this Sunday I want to try that hot yoga class. And then I can come home and lay around all day.
Yeah.
Maybe I do want to try on Monday going to the gym before work to see if it like makes me more excited for my Monday. If you give yourself that permission, and especially if you're in a community and you have that mentorship where they're like, try new things, holding you accountable. You said you want to try this. Hey, XYZ, did you try this week? Like when you have somebody to hold you accountable, then you actually start to believe and see what we're talking about right now. Because believe us, Anya and I both thought these crazy, wild things about sobriety beforehand too. And we wouldn't be here shouting from the rooftops about our findings, our conclusions from our own experiments, if we weren't freaking mind blown, like how good it is. But when we think back to like our assumptions about it, we just want everybody, we want to be able to like put our hands on your shoulders and shake you and be like, that is not what has to be. That is not truth. Every day can feel so much better. And I think, as you've been representing that like kind of baseline par of like what it was maybe Thursday night, Friday when we started to feel good, and then how low that dipped by the end of Sunday into Monday, I think that par that was like baseline feeling good back then is actually like how low my lows are. Like it's just a weird baseline shift. So that middle ground, what felt like a high back then, is worse than how I feel at my lowest low now.
Oh my God, I've never thought of that. And as you were saying that, I was like, spot on. Like I think back on like the Fridays that and here's the thing is like when you work, what we were saying, kind of that habit of like, okay, like Monday, now I'm back to ish normal. Tuesday, okay, got to work out. And Wednesday, I crush those meetings and I'm like kind of living in line with this like idea of who I could be. By Friday, you're like, hey, like I ain't got no problems. Like time to get around the girls, and happy hour at Hudson House starts at 3, so we are there at 3. And then boom, all the way down. Like the way I felt pre Hudson House at 3 p.m. is literally, I'm trying to like really put words to it. It is probably what I would feel now. and feel, ooh, like, yeah, I'm feeling a little, and I don't want to say down, but just kind of like not fully up.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because I wouldn't have considered it at all down back then. But now I'm like, oh my gosh, that is not what I consider like my best mood, my best vibe, my best energy, like my best me whatsoever. And if you think about it, back to like that, the graph I was kind of charting out, it's because zoom way out. And yeah, our par now, in week after week after week, and this up trajectory, obviously ebbs and flows, but we have gone up. We have made a significant improvement in mindset, in well-being, in physical health, in belief in self, in our relationships, in what we're spending our time on, that if we were to drop all the way down to what par was while we were drinking, it would feel like, what?
It would be very jarring. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like you have to be able to experience. And this is why, as open-minded and pressure-free as we are in the sober experiment, this is why we really encourage people that, especially if you want to moderate down the line, like you have to experience sobriety long enough to build your baseline back up so far that if you decided to have a drink and you dipped back down, you can feel that noticeable and self-induced vibe hit, basically. And before, because relatively speaking to the rest of your week, that Friday feeling was really good because almost 50% of your weekend was feeling really low. Of course, relatively speaking, that's going to feel good. But like Annie said, as you just keep that upward trend of physical and mental health improvements, you're like, I don't want to go back to that. And I crave new ways to keep my trend upward. And, not to get off subject there, but I think it's just so important to actually experience that rather than hypothesize and assume and think, oh, well, that person is just different than me. They're probably just really high energy naturally. And like, I'm just not that way. But also in the back of my mind is like, I'm not that way because I'm also drinking, 3 to 5 to 7 nights a week.
Yeah. And even, we see it with members that do choose off the bat, like, I don't want to be entirely sober. I want to moderate. And of course, we are going to be there for anybody in whatever this journey looks like for you. But in going through the sober experiment material and the work that we're doing, oftentimes, and we're kind of getting to a point right now in our current round where we have members who are moderating and then kind of like, wait, am I getting as much out of this as I could? Or I'm feeling better. Yeah, I'm drinking, once a week now. Or when I am drinking, it is just one drink. It is just 2 drinks max. Like I am actually doing what I say I will do in terms of that way. And it is better than my consumption, 6 weeks ago.
Yeah.
But they're like, okay, the idea of a complete sobriety isn't as terrifying anymore. And I think I could do that. And if I'm feeling this, like, smidge better, imagine the confidence I could build in myself if I completely eliminate it. And I was just sharing this with somebody. I was saying, whatever your current actions are, that's where you're building your confidence. And I think people confuse confidence and they think confidence always has to be positive and powerful and like in a good direction, right? But also, if you are taking action on unhealthy, toxic, harmful habits, your confidence is in that version of you. So in that manner, you're like, no, how could that be confidence? That's lack of confidence. No, you are confident. You are sure. You are, the way your night's going to go. You are confident that you are going to say, and this used to be me, I'm confident that I'm going to tell my friends 2 drinks and then I'm leaving, I'm going to bed early. And I'm not going to do that at all. And I'm going to be the drunkest girl there. I am going to then rally strangers to come back to the apartment for afters. I knew that my confidence was in that chain of events. And so even when like in moderation is like, if that's kind of where your next step is after kind of dabbling in like, more intense drinking and you're like, oh, moderation now, your confidence starts building there. So even though you're drinking less and you're only having 1 or 2 drinks and you're only drinking once a week or once a month, it's still, you're building confidence that you can't go to a social event and completely say no. And that you need a drink in your hand to feel welcomed by the people around you, or you need a drink in hand to go to a concert to enjoy your time, that you need a glass of wine when you come home to de-stress. And so that's where you're building your confidence. So while the people that kind of dabble in moderation are feeling a little bit better, there is still a slight hesitation around complete sobriety because they haven't yet built confidence there. And so I just want to encourage you guys that if it feels, whether or not you're like in that moderation phase, the beginning of your sobriety, or not at all even started on sobriety, if it feels like out of your wheelhouse and that you don't have confidence in yourself to show up in that way, that's okay. It's because you just literally haven't, and you haven't done it yet. Imagine like a med school student or someone that says they want to major in medicine and become a doctor. They would not in 8th grade be able to have the confidence to be like, I can perform heart surgery. Like, no, they couldn't, because they never have. They have not done the work. They have not done the education. They have not gone through the course, the materials, the experience. They have nothing to base that statement on that will tell them that they can do that, right?
Yeah.
Same thing in sobriety. It's like wherever you're at right now, if it feels just like far off and like, I don't know, it's likely just because you just literally haven't. And that's okay. That's a perfectly perfect place to start.
Yeah. And to kind of like sum that up, my brain was saying like, confidence comes from practice. If you are deciding the moderation path in a traditional sense, where you go from drinking a lot to cutting back, whereas in TSC, we go, drinking a lot, cut it out, and then from a better place, discern whether or not it has a place in your life. But in the traditional path, just going from drinking a lot to cutting back, you're practicing and getting more confident in cutting yourself off. But here's the thing. People who successfully moderate alcohol don't drink at every single function. So somewhere along the line, they also practice saying no. So if you're clinging on to, well, I am moderating by still I let myself have 1 every time I go somewhere with social functions. Every time I am bored and alone, I do cut myself off at 1. Well, that's good. You're building confidence there, but you're going to need to build confidence in saying no to make the cutoff point easier. Anyway, that's a little bit, we're kind of getting into a moderation topic now. And, ideally we're staying on course with the sober hangover, but I think that just goes out to anybody who's like listening and is like, sobriety is lame. I could never do it. I still want to moderate. I don't even know if I can listen to these crazy ladies talk about this beautiful sober life. But like, we think that just having a pressure-free zone and knowing that there's a way to reach your goal no matter what it looks like that inspires hope. We hope in you to say, you know what, I can reimagine what that would look like for me. And I can actually stop wishing and hoping for change with my relationship with alcohol, and I'm actually just gonna freaking do something about it.
Yeah.
Giving it a go.
Gosh, I just love this topic and the idea of a sober hangover Sunday, aka learning to love peace and learning to let yourself rest and learning to give yourself time and space to heal and to get your cup back to overflowing so that you can then move forward and have energy, have time, have pieces of yourself, creativity to give your everyday life. So if you guys enjoyed this topic, please feel free to send to a friend. Please post on social media, tag us at Try the Sober Experiment, and send us a message if you want, and let us know what you thought. Also, I'm going to just say this. Leave a review, please. I don't know if you guys know, but on any platform that you're listening, you can leave reviews, and we would so appreciate it. Leave a 5-star review if you're loving it, and let us know why it is that you're loving it. So that is all for today. I love you guys, and Maggie, any parting words?
Keep your eyes peeled. Anybody listening that is a little curious about trying out Dry July with the Sober Experiment tools in your pocket, at your disposal, keep your eyes peeled on our Instagram. And if you haven't already got on our newsletter list, then be sure to do that, because we're going to start sending out information for our Dry July support group. And we want to make sure that this time around you learn, you do different, you start building that beautiful identity, and you get taste of the Sober Experiment throughout the month without having to sign up for the full 12-week program. So we think this is a good opportunity to get your toes wet, experience it, and kind of allay any of those fears and see how beautiful this journey really freaking is. So until next time, we love you. Keep sipping that OJ. You're always welcome to sit with us at our table. Lots of love. Until next time.